There's only 24 hours in a day. I got a pair of earbuds and I wish there was a way that I could know just what I want to listen to. There's 150,000 shows that I'm not sitting through. When the world is dark and boring, let us do your exploring. Pod on pod. Pod on pod.
Welcome to Pod on Pod, a guide to the world of podcasts because it's not your daddy's radio. We're your hosts.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Joel. And this week, I'm excited. We're going to be talking about the Monat Dixon Line. This is the second we teased last week that we were going to be talking about a couple of, listener-submitted shows back-to-back. This is out of the vein of what we've been doing. We've done a lot of big-name podcasts to try to get our feet wet, expose you to what we're going to do. But also, we want to make sure that we hope that a lot of people that listen to our show, we're one of the first podcasts they've ever listened to. And the idea is that we're going to expose them to a lot of the stuff that's out there. So we have picked some big-name shows, and we'll continue to review a lot of those big-name shows.
Here are my thoughts on how we structure. I was thinking about this today.
Okay.
I think in a 4-week period, we need to do a big-name show,
Right.
a network show, a listener-submitted show, and then a host pick.
I know. See, that's a pretty good range of topics there. All right. Well, we'll try to do that from now on. But today we're going to focus on our second listener-submitted show. We ask for ideas. If you guys had podcasts that you'd like us to review, whether you're the host of that show or whether you just listen to the show, to send them in. And we got a bunch of them. We got a stack waiting, and we appreciate all of them. And some more of those are going to get reviewed in the coming weeks and months. But the first two that jumped right out at us were the Martha and Eric podcast. You heard that review last week, or maybe you haven't. If you haven't, go visit it at podonpod.com. You could find all of the archive episodes, or of course, you could subscribe and go back and look at the feed in Stitcher or on iTunes or other places around the web. But this week was the other show, the Monat Dixon Line. You only really got to listen to it in the last couple of days. This was one I saw the artwork. I looked it up online, and I looked at the artwork, and I said, that's a show that I'm really interested to check out. And it's because the two stars of the show, your hosts of the show, Donald Monat and June Dixon, their pictures are on the cover art.
They're ancient.
Well, in comparison to other podcast hosts, you're right. They are ancient. They're not really ancient. I mean, they got to be. They're up there. Do they say in the first episode exactly how old they are?
Dude, they got to be in like their 60s, probably old. I mean, 60s not ancient, but they're probably in their 70s. I mean, they were doing work in Cape Town in the 60s.
Yes, in the early 60s.
Yeah.
Some, yes. Right off the bat, I'll try to give you an idea of what this show is about. I thought the title of their show is great, too.
I did not.
You didn't like the play on the Mason-Dixon line?
No.
Why not? I mean, it's their names, first of all. This is a joke they've made for a long time, right? This is an old joke.
Do you know another Mason-Dixon line besides the Civil War line dividing the North from the South, and which states could become slave states and which states could become free states?
Well, no, but first of all, that's it wasn't just about the Civil War. That was a line that predated the Civil War. But yes, the
Right.
Mason-Dixon line.
Right.
Yes, it was two guys, Mason and Dixon, and they developed the line and where it was. Yes, but no, I don't know another. I mean, that's the reference.
Right. Where are these guys from?
They're from Great Britain. I'm assuming they've both got British accents. Maybe we're showing our own. Maybe they're not from Great Britain. Maybe they're from somewhere else in the
Keep
empire.
your limey hands off of our puns.
Yeah, no. Look, if you and I were, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're married, right? Or they're partners.
I don't know, man.
They've got to be partners. They've been working together for decades, decades, and there's obviously chemistry there. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I haven't researched them personally, other than their website and listening to the show itself. I'm going to say they're together. I hope they're together. I'm shipping Monat and Dixon.
I really feel like this show is the exact opposite of what Oh No, Ross and Carrie was for me.
Oh, well, you sent me a text message earlier that you said like your snap analysis was that it was in your top 3 of the podcasts we've reviewed so far.
There's a lot about this podcast that I know I shouldn't like?
Well, we're going to get to that in a minute. First of all, let us tell you a little bit about the show. Donald Monat and June Dixon, two writers, producers, comedians, actors. They do a little singing, I think, even, or June does.
Very vaudevillian.
Yeah, they're the whole thing. And they worked with the BBC, or the very end of the BBC, in South Africa in particular. As Josh mentioned earlier, they worked in Cape Town in the early 60s. That's most of the stuff that I've listened to so far is coming out of South Africa. I don't know that that's all they did. They mentioned that they've worked all over the world.
The reference that I heard that really dates them is when they were referred to as Masterpiece Theater as a very popular program.
Oh, they did that? The very popular program, Masterpiece Theater.
Yes.
They are, if they're not British, they have what we Yankees would refer to as a British accent, and they are absolutely charming. What they've done is they've collected a lot of the works that they've done over the years, radio skits, radio plays, small scenes from larger works on television and radio, and they're bringing them to you with a little bit of context.
And
they tell
new
you
stuff.
Yeah, as well. Oh, well, yeah, there are a few new bits that they're working up, but they have this massive amount of archival material that in the modern world doesn't really have an outlet. And podcasting is kind of perfect for it. They also, in their first episode, and anyone that through our review believes that they'd be interested in this show, I suggest you listen to the first episode. Did you hear the first episode, by the way?
I think I started with episode 3.
Okay. I listened to episodes 1, 4, and 6, and then since then, I've actually gone back and listened to a couple more. But those
2,
were my
2 was the one I started with.
Those were my 3 review episodes. In the first episode, they talk about the fact that modern media does not really have, they seem to believe that this age group is disposable. They have no interest in courting them generally. Like, you don't see a lot of advertising or television programming geared towards these folks. And definitely in the world of podcasting, you don't hear
what do you
anything
mean by
that's
these folks?
aimed towards people in their, upper 40s
Why can't you
to their 60s.
you just say old people?
Old people. All right, I'm going to say. There you go. There's the dirty little secret. Do they refer to themselves as elderly? I don't think so.
No, a lot of their skits are geared toward that. Like that's a lot of the comedy in it. Like episode 2.
Yes.
The opening skit is she comes on and she explains how everyone's going to these doctors and experts on how to live longer. But the doctors and experts aren't living any longer than anyone else is.
Yes.
Guy comes on, Monat comes on as the doctor, right? And he's coughing and sneezing. She goes, you have a cold? He goes, oh, no, I've never had a cold in my life. And then it goes on to, she's like, you believe in natural foods? He goes, yes, stone ground bread. And she goes, yeah, why is this? Why stone ground bread? Because it's easier to eat than slices. Like and they joke about it the whole way through, very satirical, a lot of times on the nose, a little dry. It's British humor.
It is British humor. That's what you should definitely know. If you were someone
What?
If you were someone that grew up watching PBS, especially the BBC shows that they would bring over and run in syndication and reruns and stuff, if you enjoyed that stuff, you're probably going to get a kick out of this too, even if some of the pop culture references don't hit home for you.
It's a variety show and a throwback to days gone by. And for somebody who tries to limit technology in their life, it's there's just a simple joy in that. Like something like it makes me feel like sitting on the porch, drinking some sweet tea, watching my dogs play in the yard.
So that's what the Monat Dixon Line is about. It's 2 classically trained performers bringing you a little bit of comedy, a little bit of music, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of fun, both from the classic stuff that they've done all over the world and then modern skits and scenes as well. What we do here on Pod is review a different podcast every week and break it down in 4 categories so that you can have an idea of whether it's the kind of show that you'd want to check out. There's a tremendous amount of content out there, tons of it that it's great, and then quite a lot of it that's not very good either. And so we're trying to save you a little time and highlight a few wonderful shows for you to check out. Generally, if we review a show we like it a little bit, we're going to show you a few negatives along the way as well, and then you can make the choice for yourself at the end. We review a show based on 4 criteria: audio quality, host likability, production values, and then the content itself. We also do some fun stuff at the end. We give it alternate names, and we talk about maybe our favorite moment, and then we're going to rate the show overall with earbuds. We give it not 2 thumbs up, but a possible 2 earbuds in. That's how we rate a show. So we're going to do all of that. Well, let's start right now with audio quality. For the Monat Dixon Line, what did you think?
It varies.
It really does.
Yeah.
First of all, the rapper segments, the modern stuff, is all really high quality. It's obvious that they've got good gear. Either they or their producer is well trained with the modern technology. They're able to cut it. They're able to record it. It all sounds great. The classic stuff, the archival segments are, as you might imagine, and it's the same way if you've ever watched like clip shows of, Carson or the Honeymooners or anything from classic television. Some of the clips are really, really sparkling clear, and you're amazed how well they've held up, and some are terrible.
Right. So I don't think it would bother me so much if it only varied from episode to episode, but it varies during the episode several times.
Yeah, because the way that they clip the segments, like you won't hear from one classic show from 1966, you won't hear a 30-minute section. You'll hear a 5-minute skit or a scene, one little vignette, and then they'll move on. Hey, here's Dixon and Monat in the modern day, and we're going to tell you about this next thing we did, and here we are into the next bit. And that next bit may be half the audio quality of the previous one. It's a little disconcerting. I understand that. But at the same time, if you like classic stuff like this, you've come to expect a little bit of audio variance.
Yeah.
Host likability is the next area, and you've already said it. We like both these guys instantly, right?
Adorable.
They really, really are. First of all, June is everything that you would want in like a classic screen lady. She's got class. She's really funny. Her picture, she looks like she's a pretty lady.
We have a segment on the other podcast that we do called Old News because I enjoy old people so much. So this was right. I mean, this is
just what you were looking for.
Yes.
Here's my thing. I am, I'm a broadcaster myself. I'm a radio professional. So I love hearing from my predecessors. That was a neat deal for me. As we're a couple of guys with theater backgrounds, I think it's neat hearing about theater and film in a whole nother era that I really don't know anything about. So that was an interesting part of it. And a whole nother continent, too. Like, you and I don't know anything that was going on in South Africa in 1960. I mean, we know some... fair enough. We know a few things. Yeah. But I'm saying, we don't...
Which I did think about while listening.
The fact that it was such a historical... time and place?
Well, they talk about, how they were entertainers and did radio shows and did this and that. And I was like, man, some of the people you're entertaining.
Yeah. Well, on both sides of it, like some of the people you're entertaining are maybe being exposed to mainstream culture for the first time because they've never been allowed to. Likewise, some of the people you're entertaining are people who literally hold another half of the population in subjugation, whatever, or have for generations. I love them. First of all, they've got wonderful, wonderful accents, and if you are from the States, then I think you will enjoy it.
Unless they're doing accents.
Oh.
June's Pakistani could do some work, and I was a little disappointed because, come on, June, you've had decades to practice.
I also really like the humor with which they approach the age difference between themselves and the average podcaster, or probably the average podcast listener.
And they are dirty.
Yeah, especially when you think about for old people, quote unquote, for old people, they're very risque. You're right. But I mean, it's not an explicit show, but
no, I don't mean
they
dirty.
tread that line.
Yeah, I don't mean dirty like a rapper.
It's not vulgar.
Yeah,
right.
At all. And I don't even think they cuss, really.
No, I don't think they do at all. It's just risque.
Very risque, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of double entendres, a lot of puns, a lot of
their Niagara Vacation commercial had my wife rolling.
Well, look, and to me, those parts of their humor are the parts from the classic segments that will hold up, and they'll hold up in 1,000 years as long as somebody understands. Segment. Oh, okay. I was talking about even. Occasionally, I'd get lost in the old bits because you're talking about a politician or there's like a company name or something, and I'm not keeping up. And then all of a sudden, it's just about the guy at the desk flirting with the girl that works at the next desk.
Yeah,
that everybody gets that, and they'll get that in 1,000 years. They'll get that in 1,000,000 years as long as they understand English. Like that's timeless humor, and they do it really well. all of those things. I'm surprised I didn't know these names. Truthfully, after hearing some of their bits and
I'm
hearing,
not surprised.
Why do you say that? Just because they were a world away?
Name one entertainer from South Africa.
Well, I guess. Well, but I don't think they're from South Africa, right? Like, I think that's just
where they
where
worked. That's where they had a lot of their work in the early days.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
A lot of the stuff that they play are from those days. So for you to say, I can't believe I didn't know who they were.
Well, at least a lot of the stuff that they've played so far. 10 episodes are available as we're publishing this episode.
And let me clarify something right quick. For those of you out there listening who really feel like you're about to email us and be like, Charlize Theron's from South Africa. Cool. I don't care. That's not what we're talking about.
I don't think of her. She doesn't have an accent in any of her movies, so I don't think of her as being South African.
Regardless, there's going to be some jack who out there who was going to send that in.
Of course they were. All right.
And then send us like 10 more we're not even thinking about.
The next category that we discuss is production values. They keep it simple on the Monat Dixon Line. You got a little theme song in, a little outro out, just segueing between the modern day segments.
Well, a lot of the production was done already.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in the 60s.
Right. So it's just dropping in bits. But whether it's them or producers, they do a good job on that.
How do you feel about, we'll talk about this when we get into content.
All right. Well, that's the next section. That's where we're going right now. Content itself. As we've already talked about, there's some of the content, time, the physical distance between us and the places where they were talking about keeps me from understanding it. But my own ignorance of pop culture and political history sometimes keeps me out of it.
I don't think it's pop culture anymore, man.
Well, it was popular culture at the time. There are just as many times, though, where the humor is that timeless part. For instance, and I'm going to go ahead and cheat here and tell you my favorite moment. This is absolutely my favorite moment. There's a bit, and I'm pretty sure this is in episode 6, but I may have it wrong. They were discussing masculine cosmetics. There was a company.
Yeah, I've
you heard
listened
that?
to that one. Yeah.
All right. The company is pitching. He said, whole new market's about to open up. We're going to have all these masculine cosmetics. We'll have, makeup that'll make you look manly, et cetera, et cetera. And he pitches.
And he gets the perfume.
Yeah, he pitches several different things. The cologne was my favorite. He says, we've got wonderful cologne for you. It's a changing room locker scent, a blend of linseed oil, rubbing alcohol, and essence of wet sock. That's funny.
And he laughs.
Yeah.
You can hear him
he chuckles.
Like wet
sock was a...
This was written back in the 60s, so I think a wet sock may have another meaning that we don't get.
Oh, maybe like a well, we would say not a damp rag, limp noodle, or she's a real when you're like a damper on the party, like a party pooper.
Debbie Downer.
Debbie Downer, but there's another phrase for it, and it's something about wet. It's something or damp. It's either wet or damp, and then another word. Maybe, I don't know. See, we're showing our ignorance here.
Yeah,
but yes. I think you're probably right. The way that he chuckled on it, you're probably right.
It caught him off guard a little.
Yeah.
And this was in the 60s.
So that was my favorite moment. I think they nail it. I already said earlier, if you like PBS growing up, if you watch their older BBC shows, if you like British comedy or just British culture, period, you got to check this show out. The
and if
Monat
you don't,
Dixon Line. Well, then something's wrong with you.
No, I mean it might be a little tough.
Oh well, yes, no, absolutely, yes. If you don't enjoy those, or if you're one of those people that's like, I don't like to listen to accents. It's tough for me to listen to nothing but accents and try to keep the conversation. Well, then this is definitely not going to be for you.
My favorite moment is got to be the Niagara Falls elderly vacation.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Did you hear it?
I did.
They do the whole Niagara thing. Like, that's the
right.
joke. Go on your second honeymoon. You've been married 30 years. River vacations are all the rage amongst that demographic now. But you don't have to go far. There's one in your own backyard, Niagara.
Nice.
But it's all like
erectile jokes,
right? And they finish it, right? And you think, oh, that's a pretty good. And then they keep going. Like, where are they? Okay, they got the boner joke with Niagara,
right?
And it turns out there's a Cialis Valley, Australia.
So it's a whole tour company based on erectile dysfunction.
Yes.
Nice. The one thing that we like to do on Pod here is give podcasts that we review alternate names, maybe a more descriptive title. I don't know, a funnier name, something that might catch people's eye more directly. For this show, I was going to call it, these aren't hearing aids, they're earbuds.
That's funny.
I thought so.
I thought just calling it depends.
That's pretty, especially because of your hangups on the audio issues.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. How good does this podcast sound? Well, it depends, doesn't it?
Undergarments.
I thought we could call it a silly old chap and a classy old dame.
I thought it should be called, if you don't pass by, we won't pass away.
Clap if you want them to live. You could call it the Proto Podcast. Like this is it's the very roots.
You know what? You bring
of
it up.
what we
Hold
do.
on. That's good, but here is my issue with it.
Okay.
Okay, number one, just from the description, I did not want to listen to this show.
Really?
I put it off as long as I possibly could.
You waited until today, didn't you?
Yes.
But you've listened to like 4 or 5.
Oh yeah, I would have blown through it. I would have listened. Well, they're quite short. They're
25 minutes, 26 minutes is the most, I think.
Yeah. They're easy to consume.
Absolutely.
So I enjoyed that aspect of it. But theater people can just be arrogant and annoying, and I wasn't sure how this was going to go. I was a little worried about that.
Right. If it would be too much of, well, back in my day, we did some amazing things in Cape Town.
Yes, especially if they thirst and howl it.
Right. And less of the actual just playing you the cool thing that they did.
Right. So I was really worried about that. So I didn't want to listen to it. I put this assignment on the back burner as long as I could. I really, really, really enjoy the show. You already said it's one of your favorite ones that we've done so far. I do too. I love it. Which brings us to the final part of this show. At Pod on Pod here, we review shows every week, and then finally we rate them for you to make it a little easier for you to decide whether you're going to check it out yourself. This week, the Monat Dixon Line. You can find more of this show online at the Monat Dixon Online. No, I'm reading that wrong. It's the MonatDixonLine.com. Yeah,
it just looks
you're way
like.
off.
Yeah, I was way off. It's the MonatDixonLine.com. I was trying to give them another pun that they hadn't done.
Remember, we're professionals.
Yeah, seriously. So this week, Pod on the Monat Dixon Line. I'm going to go first this week. Generally, I try to toss it up to you. I'm going to give this show 1.75 earbuds. This is the first time that I've given a quarter earbud. And here I'm going to...
Well, that's to match their age.
Yeah, that's right. No, I don't think they're that. I don't think they're quite that old, but they're close. You're right. This is the reason I'm going to give it.
They were working in the 60s.
It was a long time ago. Maybe I don't think about the 60s being that long ago.
So how old do you think they'd have to be in the 60s? 20?
Yeah, they're probably in their 30s. They're probably already in their 30s or 40s in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how many years ago was that? If they were 40 in the 60s, they're
math.
95.
Holy I guess you. Okay, so they're older.
They were probably in their 20s.
Yeah, they were probably Wow, but still older is the point. They're significantly older than us. They're more old than us than Martha and Eric are young than us.
Yes, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't want you to because you keep looking at me like I'm overplaying the age thing, and I'm not.
All right, fair enough. All right, so 1.75 earbuds from me, and the reason I'm going to give it that quarter earbud instead of rounding it out and making it 2. The occasional audio segment that's less than ideal, that's one thing, but that's not really my hang up. It's definitely not going to be some of our younger listeners, some of the younger people coming into podcasting. This isn't going to be for everybody. They may have no interest in this at all. So I can't give it 2 earbuds. But man, it's a great show. It's so different than anything else that I listen to. I love it. Very glad we reviewed it.
Hipsters will eat this up.
Oh, you listen to This American Life? That's so bourgeois.
So a couple of days ago, we were talking about the show. I hadn't listened to it yet. And you said you were toying around with the idea of giving it a 1.5. I was very skeptical. I thought that was crazy. I hadn't listened to it. Again, that was just my prejudice against the show before I even heard it. I'm going to give it a 1.5, man.
It's a great show. There's no other way to tell you. It's a really good show.
I'm only disappointed that there's 10 episodes.
Yeah, you just want them to do more. Here's the good news. I don't know how they're recording this, but I'm imagining that they're doing these rapper segments in like long sessions. Like maybe they're recording 2 hours of, hey, this is the time when we talked about such and such, and this is the time when we talked about such and such. They're writing the new bits as well and recording those separately. and then you got a producer that's putting that stuff all together. So I would be willing to bet there are many already in the can.
I would do it differently. I would have written 30 new bits. I would record all of them. And then I would put the show together how I wanted it. And then I would just record the in and outs.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, maybe that might be how they do it. That would be easier to tell a story, to have like a flow through your new segments, old segments, and everything. That's probably the way that it's done. However they put it together, they do a great job of it. We're so glad that it was submitted. Thanks to the folks at the Monat Dixon Line. Check them out on their website, themonatdixonline.com. They are in iTunes. They're not in Stitcher. Am I right? You tried to find them in Stitcher.
Yeah, and this is, so obviously they're older people doing new technology. I think they're only in iTunes. Well,
and iTunes is far and away, and if you listen to anybody that is in the business of podcasting, iTunes is far and away, I mean, more than half of all podcast traffic anywhere is driven by iTunes and the mobile apps that spring off of it. So that's the directory to be in first. But for Android users, and there are a lot of Android users just like you out there that want to listen to podcasts, that are actively searching for podcasts. So it is good. If you're doing a show, you got to get in some of those other directories. Stitcher is the second biggest one by far, but talk to, for instance, Pod on Pod just got into TuneIn Radio. If you've got TuneIn Radio on your car, a lot of smart car dashboards now have that built in. Or maybe
TuneIn Radio.
Seriously.
Tune in and then tune out.
Yeah, you can tune in to us now on TuneIn Radio. I'm sure that's something that's going to come with time, whether that's a matter of, hey, we submitted and the paperwork just hadn't been filed yet for a Stitcher, or, hey, we didn't know that you were supposed to do anything other than that. Either way, I'm sure it'll be ironed out, but they are accessible through their website, themonatdixonline.com.
Which, by the way, is why they get the 1.5.
Oh, that was why you're holding them back, because you couldn't, it wasn't quite so easy to access?
Yeah.
So that's this week's review, the Monat Dixon Line, our second listener-submitted show. And man, both of them really great reviews. And nice juxtapositions of each other, too. If you think about you both shows have skit elements or production elements. It's original fictional content, younger generation, older generation.
Well, yeah, and also that goes along with tenured and not tenured, raw.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Anyway, great shows, both of them. We're looking forward to more listener-submitted shows coming soon. You can expect another review next Wednesday and every week right here at podonpod.com. If you like this show, then please review us in iTunes or Stitcher, or just tell some buddies about us. Say, hey, do you know about this podcast thing? I got a great one for you, Pod on Pod. Check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to us, and until next week, I'm Joel.
And I'm Josh.
And we have crossed the Monat Dixon line, my friend.
Are you wanting something funny? Are you wanting something smart? A show on astral projection or the history of art? Do you want to learn a language or how to play guitar? Just leave it up to Joel and Josh. Pod on pod. Pod on pod.
Pod on Pod is a proud member of the Procast Network, a ProCreate production. ProCreate is a community of artists in film, music, the digital arts, and fine arts that helps connect and collaborate on projects. You can find out more at www.teamprocreate.com. Also, be sure to check out the Non-Content podcast if you're a fan of gaming and or anime. The Pod on Pod theme song is written and performed by Adam Dale. Find his music in iTunes and more information about him on our website. Our musical guest this week is Charlotte Bash, and you can find more information about them in the description.
You say you come, and I believed you. I believed you. That's when we lost our innocence, and we learned love's not enough. Everybody thinks that you're the golden boy. I don't. I believe that you're a liar. The words you said might have been true, but I don't think you meant them. You're a liar. You're a liar. your mouth.